Welcome to Revlog, where we come to 1 Peter 2 today, and Pastor Bryan is full of wisdom.
Have I ever been as prepared as today for a scripture like this?
Okay.
Your life.
Yeah,
is
I'm
prepared.
chomping at the bit.
And we're going to let Pastor Aaron go first.
That's a kindness.
That's not necessary.
Kindness to our audience.
I've already formed a thought.
It's good. This is rich stuff.
It is.
mean, I think you've mentioned in the last couple of weeks that you could parse through chapter 1 in a sermon series itself,
Right.
and there's stuff that left on the cutting room floor. I feel like because there's so much great work here. Well, I'm just coming off of writing my blog for this week, which by the time this airs, it'll be last week. But I have a very similar thought. What amazes me about Peter is his grounding in the Word.
Right.
And you actually did say something about this before we went on air. So if I'm stealing your one thought, please forgive me. But how
They're going to hear it again.
how much scripture that Peter is pulling into
Right.
his understanding of who Jesus is. And I think if there is any good apologist,
Right.
Peter is really setting the bar for us, because here's a guy that walked with Jesus.
Right.
And that he's saying, okay, guys, let me tell you who I think this Jesus is. And not only that, let me just call and draw some arrows to what you know and understand if you've been raised in the Jewish tradition. This is what he was talking about when he said the cornerstone, the stumbling block, these things. What really got me is Psalm 34, which is one of my favorites. And he quotes it here in this passage and then later in chapter 3, I think. But it's the, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good."
Right.
So when you show up on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of hymnody and music around that scripture.
And I love he uses all kinds of images here. And for me, this is hard in preaching because I like to focus on one image. Right. And he brings in all these different images. We have the milk of the word. We have the newborn babes. We have the cornerstone.
Mm-hmm.
We have the living stones. We have the royal priesthood.
Right.
You've got all of these different images and analogies. And Colin, you're saying you could do a sermon on every one of these images and out of them. And all of these images, to your point, are rooted deeply in a scriptural wisdom that he's helping the church better understand. So I am grateful for that and love where he's going here.
The whole living stones thing, I mean, to me, it's almost comical because I have this image, of this, facade, and we're all crammed in there going, I'm a part of the building, but just the idea that it's like, many members, one body kind of thought that Paul would say, this is Peter's version of it. So
well, that's the thing when you're dealing with analogies, and I feel this in the sermons too, right? Analogies only go so far, but you try to stretch them, right? So you got Jesus is the cornerstone. You're like, well, I guess we're building on top of that.
Yeah.
Right. You've got all these bricks with faces, right? And all of us kind of built on top.
Hollywood Squares.
Yeah. I don't know.
Where's Betty White?
Paul Lind. I don't know. But I was going to say it's like a living. You could do instead of a living Christmas tree.
You did it. You went there. I'm going to be getting emails now. Okay.
Aaron at
FECSA.org.
Spelled BRY.
All right, Bryan, so you help us come to 1 Peter 2. So what are your thoughts here?
Well, I actually have another thought that I...
Okay, good.
Rather than the one that I
give you
shared
enough time.
Before. Oh, my word. Yeah, exactly. This whole cornerstone, the stone the builders rejected.
Right.
How many times have I, of course you wouldn't know that, but how many times have you thought, I didn't realize what I had? And I think about that kind of thing sometimes because I get nostalgic for things, and I think, the dirigibles back in the 30s,
Right. Good for you. Good for you.
Okay. I think, boy, those times, I didn't appreciate what I
Right.
had then. And sometimes I think I would do that differently if I could do that over again. There are actions that I took that I thought, I didn't have to do that. I could have related differently to this person or that
Yeah.
person, and things might have turned out differently, and it would have been better all around. Well, this is our opportunity. I mean, this is Peter's presenting to us something here that many people have said, we didn't know what we had. We threw him away. And of course, in the end, there are going to be people who have really wasted that opportunity and never, for eternity, will have realized what they had. But this is our opportunity to say, I'm not going to make that mistake. This is the precious cornerstone. This is the foundation that can bear all of the weight in the world.
Right.
And this is our opportunity to get ahead of that kind of circumstance in which we say, I didn't know what I had.
Yeah, and I think prayers of thanksgiving help us here too,
Yes.
right? To
Yes.
appreciate the good things in life that we have from the Lord and what the Lord himself is to us. And it's easy to overlook that or dismiss that. So, yeah, that's good. So, Aaron, as you read, what question came to mind?
When you look at the title that Peter gives us, that we have been called into a royal priesthood, I mean, I don't know that we often think of ourselves
Right.
with that kind of exalted kind of framework. But I think more importantly, rather than thinking of ourselves better than we ought, we should consider, do I treat others with that kind of dignity and respect, as if to say, my brother, you are
Right.
a royal priest, just as in the line that God has created us, those of us who know Jesus, who follow him. And it's that to serve one another with that kind of dignity. I'm not sure that we do that. If we were to look on people the way that God looks on us, I think it really should change our perspective. And I think,
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's something I've thought a lot about recently, that a big part of our jobs in what we do is to help people see the spiritual. And this is what I mean by that, to see past the physical reality into the grandness of God. And part of that is this very thing you're talking about, that, here Peter is calling us these royal priests. And so how do we help folks see one another, see themselves in that way, and live in this royal priesthood rather than some earthly version of themselves?
Right,
And what does that mean to
and
live
not
that?
with the idea less of royalty, but more of just that responsibility
Right.
to act in a way that honors the Lord.
Right.
So yeah, the royal thing to me is I'm disregarding more than just to say, am I treating you as a priest that should treat? Are you so?
Yeah. I'm with you there. So, Bryan, as you read this text, what question came to mind?
These things that Peter lists at the beginning, he says to lay aside these things.
Malice, deceit, hypocrisy, envy, slander, those things,
Yeah, et cetera, et
et
cetera.
cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
These are the very kinds of things that later on that I will look at and say, if only I had dialed that down and looked at what was important here. And so I think my question is, right now, and for all of us, what do we have the opportunity to lay aside right now? Right now, in the presence of this foundational being that we know as the Christ, what do we have the opportunity to lay aside right now so that we can live without regret with Christ?
Yeah, that's good. And I think I would add to that from your point earlier, in the same way, as I'm laying this aside, what then too should I appreciate of what the Lord's given me too, right? How do I?
Very good. Absolutely.
There are things right now that I should appreciate and be thankful for, and try to recognize those things in the moment rather than when I look back.
Yeah.
So we would love to hear your thoughts on this passage too, if you would comment below.